Hello, welcome. Today our topic is what is HSC induction, and the HSC induction is also said the orientation. So in this session we will see what are the important parameters and what are the important topics are covered in the HSC induction. Whenever we join any new company or any new site, the first thing is that from the management side or from the safety department side of that particular company, every new employee or visitor or vendor has to attend their safety induction program. So we will try to know in details what are those things, what are those points. So let's start. First thing is that we will see what is the definition of HSC induction. The safety induction is the first interaction of company and employee. In this session, the new employee, vendor, visitor are made aware with this company HSC policy, company process, and product, work-related hazards, compliance with HSC guidelines, so that they can work safely. The induction is the starting point for an organization to introduce a safety culture in the workplace, and it forms the foundation to ensure the safe practices. Here it is telling that when an employee or any visitor or any vendor or any third party inspection and audit company comes or enters to the any clients or project sites, when the management shows that the HSC orientation is a very important element for everybody to enter in the work area, to enter in the site, and all the important hazards, their practices, their system of work, and where are the assembly points, what are the emergency alarms, and how to respond at the time of emergency response plan. All these things are discussed by the uh, company representative or the HSC department trainer or officer. Then it develops and a positive approach from the management side of the company, that this company is sincere, the management is sincere about the safety of ourselves and for their employees, for their equipment, visitors, and as well as the environment. So what are the topics are generally discussed in a safety induction? And here I want to tell you the topics of the HSC induction might be vary industry to industry, but the objective is the same. So the number one is company HSC policy. What is the HSC policy of that company? The second is workplace hazard. Here, the visitors and employee are made aware what are the hazards in our work area and how we have to cope with those difficulties and hazards. To coping any issues and problem, the first we need to understand and know what are the hazards and what is the problem. That's why the workplace hazard are discussed in this session. And number three is the basics of hazard identification. What are the basic things for hazard identification to identify the hazards in the work area? The potential work-related injuries or ill health hazards. So what are the work-related injuries might be happen and in earlier days happened, discuss the case studies in short and in brief actually to make them aware. And the next one is emergency exits and evacuation plan. It is a very important point. It is a very important point for the any safety induction, because in this we explain them where are the assembly points, where the fire exits and fire alarms pull boxes are located, where are the emergency showers, where the IWAS stations located, and explain the uh, how to respond in the case of alarm, and what is the meaning of the different kinds of alarms. And you have to accumulate in the assembly point in case of any emergency, and do not run, go in a proper way to the emergency, at the emergency situation to the assembly point. So in this element in the emergency exists an evacuation plan. All the issues are discussed related to any emergency. Those emergency can be the fire hazard, that can be the H2S or other gases leaks, there can be a mechanical disturbance, there can be a natural reason or the natural phenomena for that emergency. And the next is reporting procedure for incidents or the near misses. The every near misses and incidents happens with you. You have to share, and you have to report to the concerned person. He might be your the first person is definitely the HSC professional, the HSC supervisor appointed on that particular location. And this is a very important responsibility of all the employee of any company and all the visitors to report all the nemesis and all the incident. And the hazardous material handling practices. So what are the hazardous materials, the chemicals, the radiation sources at the time of radiography? Those are handled at our side. And what are the precautions we have to take? What are the signage for that? And all this, the day when the any hazardous activity, or for example the radiography is going to be conducted, in the very beginning, in the morning shift, in the toolbox talk, all the crew members, all the workforce are, and all the people are introduced, and all the informed actually that today we have this plant, so this area will be affected, and all the area will be the barricaded, there will be signage over there, so keep yourself away from that affected area. The paying attention to all warning signs. There are warning signs of different hazards, so you have to observe the warning signs and act accordingly, using personal protective equipment properly whenever required. And you have to be sure that the compliance with the PPE, because it's very important. The first aid, about the first aid at our area, we have a facility for the first aid, and where the first aid providers are, I mean, what are their names, their phone numbers, and this information is posted in the various locations in the work area. And there is a particular first aid clinic, site clinic, so location of that is also discussed in this. So next is tell more that it is their duty to refuse to perform work if they believe it may be dangerous to themselves. If any worker or any person he has been assigned a work, and that particular employee observes and thinks that this work might be dangerous for me, because maybe I'm not more experienced with this activity, or he finds any tools defective, or any other reason, maybe that work is related with the chemical, and that person is not having the proper PPE related to the chemical handling and usage. So if he finds that this work might be dangerous for him, he can refuse. He can explain to his supervisor that it seems me dangerous, and so I'm not comfortable and well experienced to perform this, so I cannot execute this operation. And occupational health and safety rights, the right to know, these are the this right is for the workers, for all the employees. Then the right to participate, they have right to participate in all kinds of training, the safety campaigns, and the right to refuse unsafe work. Actually, this is also very important. The right to refuse unsafe work. If any worker, as I said earlier, if he finds that this work might be dangerous, and he's not confident to perform that work, he may refuse that work. So what are the benefits of orientation? Here, the employees become aware of the health and safety hazards on the job, controls for these hazards and how they can affect their safety and the safety of others. Helps reduce the risk of potential injuries and accidents. Meets legislative requirements, increase efficiency of the new employee, contributes to building a positive safety culture within the organization, demonstrates the company's moral obligation to protect the employee from harm. And some information, for example, the smoking, about the smoking is strictly prohibited in the work area. There are allotted smoking shelters in the work area, and you have to smoke in that assigned area only. And after smoking, you have to ensure that your cigarette butts are already completely put off. The photography is not acceptable in the plant, in the project site. The mobile phones, the usage of mobile phones are not allowed for the workers. There are actually two reasons. The first thing is that the uses of mobile phones while working distracts the mind from the work what he's doing. And the second is, if he is working in a rig, if he's working in oil plants, refinery plants, there might be flammable atmosphere, and the radiation from the mobile phone can develop the flammable atmosphere. Maybe the fire and explosion can be the result. So the mobile phones are not allowed to use. The speed limit is 10 km/h, and it depends on the site management. It might be the 15 or 20. It is dependable on the site management. Personal protective equipment. The compliance of the PPE is very important. The very general PPEs are for all the workers and the visitors and any vendors. The full sleeve coverall, the helmet, and the safety boots, the safety goggles. These are the general required PPEs. And other PPEs, for example, the full face shield mask, half face shield mask, and dust mask, ear plug, ear muffs, and these are required as per the work-related hazards. But the general PPE, what I explained earlier, is mandatory for generally for all the worker at site. There is hand gloves. There are different kinds of hand gloves. If he's a welder, there should be a leather hand gloves he has to use. And if he is working with a chemical, he has to use the rubber hand gloves. If the person is involved in any work where there might be chances of the pinching of fingers, he has to use the impact gloves. So in a general work, the manual light material handling, the person has to use the general cotton hand gloves. So the other PPEs are depending on the work related situations. This is a very clear image of a oil refinery. Why I put it here? Because we can see there are multiple lines are there, the multiple equipments in a refinery, the exchanger, the boilers, there are the vessels, there are the confined spaces over there. There's different kinds of pipelines there, heat exchangers are there. So there are the flares are there. So there are different kinds of chemicals and hydrocarbons are flowing in this. The gases are flowing in these pipelines. They are hot sometimes. They are corrosive. They are very dangerous. There are many. There are multiple chemical reactions that are happening in a refinery in the same time. So that's why the HSC induction is mandatory for all the person to know what are their business, what are their process, what are their finished products, and what are their hazards, what are the risks in the plant, and what are the most dangerous and hazardous locations in that particular plant where I'm going to enter. So that when we understand and when we identify the hazards first in a starting, it helps us to keep ourselves in a safe zone to cope with all the hazards, so that because we know the hazards and we apply the safe control measures. So it is very important. The safety induction is very important for everybody. And this topic is also discussed as a safe system to work. Actually, what is the definition of safe system to work? The integration of people, equipment, and materials in correct environment to produce the safest possible conditions in a specific work area. So this is a very short definition, in very brief. And in addition, the basic safe work practices should be observed by every individual working on a job site. As we said, the safety is the responsibility of everyone. So that's why it should be observed by everyone that what the work we are doing, what the work my work is being done in my nearby proximity environment. Uh, so what the hazards might be there, if there is any unsafe condition, if there is any unsafe situations, we have to stop the work, we have to advise, we have to report to the supervisor, and we have to apply the safe work method or safe system to work. And the task must be assessed and all the activities to be thoroughly planned. Whatever the work, what the work we do, that should be planned. Without planning, and no work is allowed. The workforce must be organized and aware of their roles and responsibilities. The planned procedures must be adhered to during the work. Any changes to the work scope will be identified and explained to the workforce thoroughly. If any changes are done, for example, if any changes is done in the work practice, if any changes is done in equipment, if any changes is done in the uses of our tools and chemicals, this all new information must be reviewed in the risk assessment, and this all new staffs should be discussed with our workforce. If the activity is to be suspended for any time, example bad weather, to the workplace is to be left in a safe manner, all tasks to be completed at the highest safety standards. Self-performance, self-assessment. Before beginning any activity, task, job, after an incident or near miss, any unusual circumstances, assess the risk. What is the risk and what is the level of the risk? What could go wrong? What is the worst thing that could happen if something goes wrong? Analyze how to reduce the risk, how we can reduce the level of the risk. Do I have all the necessary training and knowledge to do the job safely? Do I have all the proper tools and personal protective equipment to perform the job? Act. Then we have to act. Then we have to execute our operation. Act to ensure safe operation. Take necessary action to do the job safely. Do not proceed unless everything is safe. When you find that there is a chance of any accident or unexpected situation, you have to stop your work. And that's why here is a sentence: do not proceed unless everything is safe. Now we will talk about the waste management. The waste management in the company. Throw cotton waste bottles, waste water bottles, waste paper, plastic. It is in appropriate waste bin. Maintain good housekeeping in and around the work sites and in the camp area. All oils and chemicals are to be stored in appropriate secondary containment. We have to maintain the work housekeeping not only in our work site but as well as in our camp area also, in our accommodations as well. There are actually four kinds of the waste and waste bins in the rig sites and other sites. What are the those waste classes? The waste classes are following: the combustible waste, number one; the non-combustible waste, recyclable and reusable waste, and hazardous waste. Here are the examples of those all categories. We have to learn all these things. We have to identify this waste comes and falls under which class of the waste. hazardous chemical storage. In our work area, the many chemicals are also used and stored. Store hazardous chemicals in their appropriate containers, clearly marked. So it is very important in any container or any drum or barrel, what is the chemical stored in that, that should be written, that should be mentioned on that container clearly. The next is, do not store hazardous chemicals in the plastic bottles. Sometimes the work area people, they keep the thinner in a drinking water bottle, and sometimes other chemicals, the glues and other chemicals also they keep in drinking water bottles. This is not acceptable. So we ensure that we do not have to apply this malfunction or this unacceptable practice. And the next is, we have to ensure that the MSDS or the material safety data sheet or SDS safety data sheet, both are the same, are maintained in with the chemicals. I mean, where the chemicals are stored, the MSDS or SDS should be there. Or when the chemicals are transported, that time also the MSDS should be with the chemical. And when the chemicals are used at the site, that time also in the work area where the chemical is used, the specific and related MSDS should be present in the work area. Emergency procedure. In the case of any emergency, raise the alarm. Or the second situation is, if you hear the any emergency alarm, then you have to stop work when alarm is sounded. Then turn off all equipment, or the equipment you are using, you try to turn off. Do not run. Do not run. You do not have to make a panic situation over there. No need to run over there. Walk quickly to the assembly point. Await after the gathering in accumulation in the assembly point. Await instructions. There will be instructions will be given by the management, by the responsible persons after the head count, and when it will be confirmed that there is no any emergency and all the emergency situation has been controlled and the area is safe to work, then for that instruction you will have to wait. Thank you for giving your time. I believe that I could um, enhance and add on. I could add some more information for you related to HSC induction. Thank you very much.